Mountain Sea, where Taoists and monsters roam, novels in which gods appear. When I woke up, I somehow entered a novel and became a tiger. And in the silent night of the mountain and dense forest appeared a dog that seemed to be mutilated and a trap next to it. However, it was not caught by the trap, but instead it was brought by the poachers, who were hunting some creature, as one informed the other that the creature they were tracking killed their dog without it even uttering a single bark, also traversing through the forest without leaving a single footprint, saying how it's probably not an ordinary animal. While both were still discussing, another duo of their squad showed up calling for the guy named Song and reported the noose and trap that they installed are still intact, even though he is sure that the put them in the animal's path. And even though it avoided it, there should have been at least some traces of it. However, there is none at all. The guy named Song then turned his attention to the person next to him, who seemed as their leader, going by the name Mansom, as he told him how it was his first time he had ever seen a clever animal, and thought that they should definitely retreat down the mountain at that moment. And feeling the pressure, the leader Mansom just yelled at him to keep quiet, as he was thinking at the moment, and in his head he busy cursing, asking himself if they fell for the animal's trap and whether they should retreat. And snapping out of his thoughts, he immediately gave out instructions for them to head down the mountain and leave the rest of the traps as they are, as they will come back to collect them tomorrow. So they must move in groups until they reach the valley. Not to forget, them must get bows ready in advance. However, before he could finish giving orders, one of his subordinates who was in front of him was suddenly attacked as blood splattered everywhere, some spilling on the leader's face. And looking at the guy who was attacked, there was a massive paw that pressured down on him, squeezing him to death as he could not utter any words. The massive paw belonged to our tiger that emitted blue aura around him and cold to its nature. It just swatted away the man like an ant, causing massive shock among the hunters, and being the leader, Ma Dude had to act. However, he was also pissing himself as before. Him as creature he has never seen before, as he trying with all his might to reload his crossbow. However, his shaky hands would not allow him due to overwhelming fear surging through his body. The tiger, though, didn't see any need to wait for him, as he pounced on him with his mouth wide open, biting off the leader, and he did not stop there as he continued to slash off his other subordinates, creating a bloody scene, which left one that was missing an arm, who tried to run away from the monster before them. However, his trip was not long, as it was cut short by the arrival of our huge tiger, who seemed to loam over the one-handed hunter, who was now prey himself. And with his last words, he uttered how he knew that they had disturbed something they shouldn't have disturbed, as before him must be San-gun, the owner of the mountain. He was indeed the owner of the mountain, as his kingly aura emanated a godly presence before those who came across him. The owner no longer needed those who trespassed with evil intentions, no longer so finished off the one-armed man swiftly. Morning came, and the scene shifted to a remote village down the mountain, as a very hot topic was circulating among the villagers, and the two men were at the helm of it, as one asked whether today was really that day. Which day was that, you ask? Well, it was the day when someone was going to be sacrificed as an offer to San-gun, their king of the mountain. Oh yeah, it is tonight, isn't it? So who is going to be offered this time? Isn't there a slave in the Bayek Jija family? The other guy answered, and explained that it is a young girl with bright white hair and blue eyes, similar to a ghost. Shifting to nightfall at the Bayek Jija family stood a young man who was staring at the sky, and at that moment his attention was needed, as they called him the young master. And the voice that needed his attention was an old lady who bowed respectfully, and next to her was a young child who seemed to be covered by clothing everywhere as to not be seen. And the young master praised the old man, calling her a nanny, and arrogantly told the young child to follow him, which made the young one hesitant at first, knowing her dilemma. However, the ugly young master shouted at her, asking her on what she was doing, as she should hurry up quickly, and the young one agreed nervously as the young master led her outside, where they were met by 4 men and a palanquin, which seemed to be the transportation, as they immediately took her away. Along the way, one could see that the young one was terribly nervous, and up the mountain they went. However, it was not an easy task, as the men carrying the heavy load were huffing and puffing with exhaustion, but continued steadily towards their goal, and as soon as they arrived at the certain destination, they gave each other glances as to say something they all understood, and without hesitation, in the next second, they all bolted out of there, without looking back, clenching their butts with fear, leaving the young one all alone in the dead of night. After some seconds, movement occurred as the young stepped out of the palanquin, and facing the entrance of the cave, the young girl exclaimed in excitement at how big the cave was. However, she then reprimanded herself, calling herself an idiot, as she was going to Mr. Sangun soon. So she should not look stupid, and the look in her eyes clearly showed that she was not going to resign to her fate, and continued to tell herself that she has to behave herself properly, as to not anger him, encouraging herself that she will be the one who will become Sangun's bride. She then walked confidently inside the pitch-black cave, where not even a spark of light, seconds after entering, her confidence suddenly disappeared as she was panting heavily, beginning to feel scared, thinking to herself that she cannot go on like that any further, and while she was in deep thoughts, a loud, deep voice interrupted her, echoing around the whole cave, asking her who exactly she was, which immediately terrified her as her legs were also trembling and later gave way as she fell on her knees. "I said, who are you?" repeated the voice, and while still in a state of shock, she tried to explain who she was. However, she realized that what she was doing was not enough and saw that it was her chance of survival, so she gathered up all her courage, stood up, and introduced herself as Choa, the one who will be married to him, Sangun, as she called him her husband, which naturally stunned the poor tiger, surprised by the words this girl dared to spout, and after saying that, Choa blushed, not believing that she actually said it. However, the tiger did not share her excitement, and he released his terrifying aura and stepped ever so closer to the girl, as they now met face to face, making the girl feel even more nervous than before. But she did not give in to the fear inside her, and said out loud while standing upright with all the courage she had, saying how her sister said they were sick, so she came. Instead, and to become his bride, she has to be patient, so he must please take good care of her, and said in a cute manner, "Husband." She then closed her eyes tightly, waiting for our boy Sangun's response, as he seemed annoyed. And as expected, the reaction was not welcoming, because in the next second he lashed out on her, roaring loudly as he told her that he doesn't care whether she is a priest or a woman, the loud roar swaying with the wind, raising Choa's hair in the air, also stunning her, as she was not expecting such a lash-out, and after he got all that annoyance out of his system, the girl, however, on the other hand, was trembling, and like the child she is after getting frightened, she bit her lips, and in the next second, she began to cry out loud, which naturally stunned the tiger, asking the little girl why she began crying. However, not paying attention to him, she still continued to bawl her eyes out, which made our tiger curse to himself as he begged her to please stop. "Please stop crying, okay? Why did you suddenly start crying?" However, she did not answer, as she was still busy bawling her eyes while also mumbling that she was his wife, so she is mainly crying because he got angry with him. Having no other way to deal with the matter, he sighed heavily and told her that it was already late, so she should stay for tonight, while also comforting her by reaching out one on his claw to wipe away the tears. Hearing that, Choa's mood brightened up as she became delighted by the news. "Do you really mean that?" she asked, wanting to confirm his words. "Yes," he replied, making the girl so happy that she got more comfortable as she smeared all of her tears and snot on his fur, causing him to become speechless by the sight. The night passed by quickly, and morning arrived with the melody of birds chirping and inside the cave, the ever-so-innocent white-haired girl, Cho-Ah, was sleeping ever so peacefully on top of our big, scary tiger, who looked rather defeated, as he was speechless by her defensiveness, laying on top of the king of the mountain, and as he was evaluating the girl's characteristics more, who had snow-white hair, which was extremely rare in this world, which is really the hair of the white blood ghost, a woman using curses, who ended up cursed as well. So right now, he can't believe a weak child like her could turn into a terrifying ghost dwelling in the deep seas. And nonetheless, the blood of a white blood ghost is an irreplaceable elixir that all beasts desire. Inwardly thinking that with how he has trouble keeping his anger in check, it would be dangerous staying next to her, so in other words, she is a child who shouldn't be there. As she began to open her eyes, still drunk from her sleep, she asked, "Huh, husband, you are awake." Her face then brightened up as if she recalled something. "Ah, come to think of it, this was our first night, isn't that right, my husband?" Hearing that, our Tigger boy stood up in fright. "What nonsense are you spouting?" And continued to say, "The morning sun has risen. You should go back home." Upon hearing this, the girl became reluctant. "I can't go back home," she replied hastily. "He said he'd hit me like a pig if I ever came back. Who was it?" "Who said that?" Sangun asked. It was the master Bayek of the Jinja's house, and upon hearing that, Sabgun finally realized something, thinking that the people who sent the hunters were from the lower village, and if that's the case, then it means the child was a living sacrifice. The girl, now being all pitiful, pleaded for him to not abandon her, also trying to point out her good points, saying she is good at doing laundry and also not picky with food. Even though he is probably good at everything, she still wants to help somehow. Sangun then thought to himself, "Even I send her back to town, she will probably be thrown out again or worse, be killed." However, he did not want to think about that anymore, as his main priority right now was to make a plan to get rid of her, thinking he could send her somewhere other than the Bayek village, and if he gives her some herbs, then she can sell them for a lot of money and so be able to live on her own. Thinking his plan was perfect, he smiled with joy as he thought he was smart. With that on his mind, he commanded the girl to follow him as he led her to the outside of the cave and later came back with some herbs, both of them at the entrance of the cave as he dropped the plants in front of her, making the girl curious as to what they were. He then explained to her that they are wild ginseng roots for her and continued that they can even be sold at a high price, and so she must take them and go down to Ungol village, not Bayek village. "But I'm your wife," she said out loud. "When did I become your husband?" he shouted back. "Stop dreaming and stop talking nonsense and just do as I say." He then picked up the wild ginseng with his tail and gave them to her, telling her that those ginsengs were enough to put a roof above her head, so she must not lose them under any circumstances. However, Choa was not happy about that, as she told him that she didn't really need them, and the only thing she needed was him, her husband. However, she was stunned in the next second, as our boy Sangun realized some of his intimidating aura, warning her that she had better stop angering him, while also condemning himself that he is a ruthless ruler of Bayek San, the one who will create a divine body and reach the heavenly Tao. However, while still walking away thinking about looking all cool, Choa from his back called for him once more with hesitant voice, husband," which naturally made him turn back his head quickly, telling her the same thing, that she was not his wife. However, Choa, making a pitiful face, just told him that she doesn't even know how to get down the mountain or the way to Ungol village, and realizing his mistake, he sighed heavily, thinking that it was a real hassle to get rid of her. He then bent down, allowing her the opportunity to get on top of him, which naturally caught the girl by surprise, as he was not expecting such, making her want to confirm if that was what he meant. "I won't say it again," he responded. Now knowing what to do, she immediately geared up the packed ginseng roots with confidence and got ready to climb on top of the massive tiger, and she did not do it in graceful manner as she grabbed onto his eyelids and stepped on his face, making our boy Sangun super uncomfortable, wondering if she couldn't just climb from the side. But after the successful yet clumsy climb, the moment she was on top of the massive tiger, the view she witnessed was truly incredible, making her super happy as she patted him on the head, happily exclaiming that she would be the first one to ride on top of him, making her laugh loudly with joy, which naturally angered him. However, as if he did not want to dwindle on the matter anymore, he gave no response. But the girl, still being excited, pointed towards a directions, shouting for departure, still calling him his husband, and surprisingly, without hesitation, he leaped off the mountain, and not forgetting to remind her that he is not her husband. After some time of traveling, they arrived at a cliff, and below it was the view of the village of Ungol. However, the mountains behind had a particular look to them, which made Choa exclaim, The mountains looked like a butt." But our boy Sangun was occupied by other thoughts, also informing the girl to stop pulling his ears as she was hurting him, and realizing her mistake. She immediately retracted her hands and apologized, and after some silence from them both while looking at him, she suddenly hugged, as she probably thought he was being cute, laughing all happily, which caught our boy Sangun off guard, yelling at her to not dare hug him and she must get off quickly. And after some hugging, she finally hopped off his back, which delighted him, and immediately after that he tried to get away from her, telling her that it was fun while it lasted, so they must never meet each other again. Eh? The wondered in surprise, and realizing our boy's intentions in panic, she hurriedly grabbed his tail with some of her dormant strength, making our boy squirm in pain, warning her not to do so as the tail is an extremely sensitive part of an animal, while also sweating heavily. Choa, on the other hand, was really upset at that moment, telling him that what he gets for being so rude, also asking him where he thinks he was going. "It's none of your business," responded our boy in a defiant tone. The girl, however, did not relent, as he told him that now that they had their first night, he should then take care of her, his wife. But as always, Sangun tried to reason with her by asking how on earth animals and humans can get married in the first place, telling her to not talk about things she does not understand. The girl, however, did not want to adhere to reason, as she yelled that she is married to the mountain tiger, so he has to take responsibility. "Oh, come on. I just gave you the ginseng. You can live a good life by selling it." "I don't want that," she yelled loudly, then threw the wild ginseng that she was given down on the floor, informing him that she does not need grass or roots, as she simply wants to only be with him. While the girl was still in a fit of rage, in our boy's head he was busy agitated, asking himself what Choa was doing, throwing down the ginseng as they are very precious, also thinking to himself that he really needs to put an end to this whole situation. So he came up with a method to get rid of her, although he did not want to use it. At that moment, it cannot be helped. He then told the young and naive girl that she should go and sell the wild ginseng in the village. "Sell it?" she wondered. "Yes, you can sell it and get married this way, as she would be able to survive." However, Choa did not listen any further, as she was enticed by the word marriage, making her eyes beam with joy, and immediately said how she was going to accomplish that task. Grabbing the wild ginseng that was on the floor, she said how she will be back soon, so he must not go anywhere. "All right, take your time," said our boy Sangun, was happily smiling. "Take all your time." And along the way, the joyful girl was not paying too much attention as she tripped and fell. However, she just laughed it off, leaving our boy speechless as always, but for not too long, as he was very delighted that now she had finally left. Arriving at the village down below, there was an old man who seemed to be running a shop while busy fanning the fire, and out of nowhere our cute girl Choa, who was looking rather terrifying, informed the old man on how she came there to sell something. However, immediately after looking up, the old man shrieked back in fear, as to him our girl really looked like a ghost to him, making him shout in fright. But after he had gathered his thoughts to calm down, he then said to himself that he thought he had seen a ghost. Clearing his throat, he asked, "Are you here to sell something?" Asking to see the products, after being given the product, seeing the wild ginseng, the old man was immediately surprised, wondering where such a child got such a product, making our girl reply to him that her husband gave it to her. "Your husband?" "Yes, I have to sell it and get married." The old man then began to evaluate everything, and well to know everything that he is scheming. Be sure to subscribe for more, and we shall take a journey to find out more about our Tiger Sand Gun and the young Choa. Until next time.